Obi-Wan's holding me back. He doesn't understand my power. Anakin. Anakin syndrome, you whiny, whiny Anakin. Um, what is Anakin? Anakin syndrome is the name that I came up with for really smart people who become so full of hubris and confidence in themselves that they end up thinking everything is holding them back. And if you're in technology, you are probably acquainted with somebody from this. It's one thing to be confident and have hubris. It's one and you know and say, "Oh, I got new information. I was wrong." Like, "Oh, I don't know. Somebody just asked me why I don't like WSL2 because I used to say it was the best thing, best Linux distribution ever made, and now I'm like, if you use it, you're an idiot." Speaking to myself, who used it for a long time. Changing your mind is not Anakin syndrome. Anakin syndrome is when you get so good at something that you start to think you're better than everybody else. And I have talked about this before in another video, but I'm going to tell the story again. Really quickly, here's how the story goes. Um, there was a guy who I taught, and he mentored some time ago, and he got really good. He was kind of small, and then he got kind of big. And um, he was good at what he was doing and everything. But then he got so full of himself that he started saying, "Oh, you don't understand. You're dumb." And then he started thinking he was better than the teacher, um, and become a Sith Lord. Right. Only a Sith Lord deals in absolutes. Right. And I use absolutes all the time, but still, the idea of Anakin syndrome is that by the way, that whole Sith Lord thing is bullshit. It's total bullshit. Sometimes there are things that are absolute. 1+1 = 2. It's an absolute. I'm not a Sith Lord. I'm a kindergarten kid who knows how to do math. So that's George Lucas just being an idiot. It's totally stupid. We're not going to go there, okay? There are absolutes in the world. There absolutely are absolutes in the world. There is one best way to do many, many things. That's actually a very important principle that we'll talk about in another video. So anyway, this guy thought he knew everything. And I'd take him aside and say, "Hey, you got to stop countering me in the classroom. It's not okay. Even if you disagree, we can talk about it outside of the classroom." And he's like, "Well, okay, whatever." And you could tell that he just felt he felt like he knew more than everybody. And then he started posting, lessons as his own, and claiming, basically having everybody tell him how cool he was and awesome. I'm like, dude, okay, that's fine to do that, but you should give credit where credit is due. And I'm not asking for credit. I'm saying that you should not be pumping up perception that you're better. And then it kind of dawned on me that he didn't even realize that was happening. And that is going to lead us to the other part of this. Anakin syndrome really is something called the Dunning-Kruger effect. So let's go ahead and do research for this. This is something we can actually search for. What is the Dunning-Kruger effect? All right, we're going to go search on the internet. The Dunning-Kruger effect is a cognitive bias in which people are with limited competence in a particular domain overestimate their abilities. It was first described by Justin Kruger and David Dunning in 1999. Some researchers also include the opposite effect for high performers, their tendency to underestimate their skills, which we also talked about earlier. That is imposter syndrome. So Dunning-Kruger is when you think you are better than you are and you don't know that. In fact, if you want a mnemonic device to latch on to, I never forget the scene where Anakin doesn't have legs. I mean, and he's like burning and he's, oh, sorry, spoiler alert. And 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 Obi-Wan is standing above him. He's like, "I hate you." Anakin's like, "I hate you." And Obi-Wan's like, "I loved you, Anakin." Another horrible, horrible writing. But, still, he's like, "I loved you. I treated you like a son, Anakin." And he's like, "I hate you." Well, you know what that is? That's what happens when Anakin syndrome fails. It's the end result of Anakin syndrome. And by the way, the scene right before that is very, very instructive. So Anakin is there. He thinks he is all that, man. He's full of Anakin syndrome. He's got Dunning-Kruger effect. He thinks that he's better than everything else. He thinks he's better than his leader, his master. And it goes beyond arrogance, right? And Obi-Wan's like, Anakin, I have the high ground. I mean, come on. I taught you better than that. I got the high ground. He goes, don't do it, Anakin. Just don't do it. Just put your sword, your lightsaber down and just call it a day. Nope. Nope, not Anakin. Full of Dunning-Kruger effect. He tries to show that he's better than his master, and he actually was better than his master at a lot of things. But when it comes down to practical wisdom, a lot of times his master in that case is like, cut his legs off. And frankly, sometimes the only way, if you're an educator, sometimes the only way you can deal with somebody who's really, really good, who hasn't done that, is cut their legs off. I'm not metaphorically speaking, because they just will not get it. And by the way, hopefully when you cut their legs off, eventually they come around and like, you were right about me. You were right about me, Luke, when I beheaded all of those younglings. And now I am saved through the grace of the Force. Yeah, if you can tell, I don't like Star Wars at all. But it serves as a good mnemonic device for this opposite of imposter syndrome. Oh, I can't do anything. I suck. It's like, I can do anything. You can't stop me. It's a bad thing. It's hubris out of control. And it is all over. It is all over. Just avoid it. Do the best you can to try to help yourself avoid it. And by the way, how can you protect yourself from Dunning-Kruger effect? Mostly you need accountability partners in your circle. It could be your wife, who's ripping you down all the time and telling you that they support you, but they also don't lie to you, right? Isn't that great? It's great if you have a spouse that's that way, but it doesn't necessarily have to be a spouse. It can be a recruiter. It can be your mentor. It can be somebody who's in the industry. Bottom line, it just means that you need to listen to them. And if you, for some reason, don't think that your current mentor knows what they're talking about, then seek another opinion. Go, and ultimately you are still in control. But I think the biggest thing to own here is that you accept that you are going to have cognitive biases. You just are. There's no way any human can avoid them. Unfortunately, there are some humans who deny that they have cognitive biases. And I think what I'm encouraging myself and everyone to do here is to accept the fact and reevaluate the fact that we have unknown cognitive biases all the time. And one of the biggest ones is Dunning-Kruger, especially among technologists.